The cafeteria was alive with laughter, the kind that feeds on someone else's embarrassment. In the center of it all, Tyler, the school's notorious troublemaker, held a milkshake in one hand, his grin wide and cruel. Across from him, a new teacher stood quietly by the lunch counter carrying a tray of salad and coffee. She was petite, calm, and almost too composed for a place that reeked of teenage chaos. The kids whispered, "That's the new sub, Miss Harper. Looks too soft for this school." Tyler smirked. "Soft, huh? Let's welcome her properly." Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you re-watching from. I love knowing who is listening. He strutted over, his sneakers squeaking against the tiles, and with a quick flick of his wrist he emptied the entire cup of chocolate milkshake down her white blouse. The cafeteria froze. The liquid splashed, running down her sleeves, pooling on the floor. Everyone waited for her to scream, or cry, or at least shout for the principal. But Miss Harper didn't move. Her eyes, a sharp shade of blue, rose slowly to meet Tyler's. And in that silence, that long, unbearable silence, something in her gaze made even the loudest students stop breathing. Tyler laughed nervously. "What's the matter, miss? Cat got your tongue?" Miss Harper set down her tray gently, wiped her face with a napkin, and said in a voice low but firm, "You think you've won something, Tyler?" He blinked. "Yeah, Then let's see how you handle a real challenge." There was no anger in her tone, no visible rage, just quiet control, the kind soldiers use when chaos doesn't scare them anymore. The bell rang, but nobody moved. They watched as she turned and walked out of the cafeteria, her wet blouse clinging to her shoulders like armor. Tyler laughed again to cover his nerves. "What's she gonna do? Tell the principal? I'll be back before detention even starts." But he was wrong. That afternoon, the students filed into the gym for physical education, only to find Miss Harper standing in front of the mats wearing military training gear. Her hair was tied back. The look in her eyes was different. "Good afternoon, class," she said, her voice echoing through the gym. "Today, we'll be learning a few self-defense drills. I'll need a volunteer." Every student looked at Tyler. Miss Harper smiled slightly. "Ah, Mr. Tyler. Perfect timing." His grin faltered. "Wait, what?" "You wanted to make an impression," she said calmly. "Here's your chance." At first, Tyler tried to play it cool. He walked onto the mat, flexing for his friends. "Don't go too hard on me, miss." "Oh, don't worry," she said, her tone calm as ever. "I never hit harder than necessary." She gave him a stance to mimic. Feet apart, hands up, relaxed shoulders. Then, before he could blink, she moved. One motion, clean, precise, and Tyler was on the ground, flat on his back. The air whooshed out of his lungs as the crowd gasped. "Lesson 1, she said, offering him her hand. "Respect is not given, it's earned." Tyler took her hand, but the humiliation burned. He yanked his arm back and muttered, "You just got lucky." Her eyes narrowed, but her voice stayed soft. Lesson 2. Arrogance blinds you to wisdom. He lunged again, but this time she sidestepped. In one fluid move, she twisted his wrist, spun him around, and pinned him with nothing more than leverage and precision. The crowd erupted, half in shock, half in awe. Someone whispered, "How does she know how to do that?" A boy in the back spoke up. "My brother said she used to be in the Navy, a Navy SEAL." A hush fell. Even Tyler stopped struggling. He stared up at her, the reality dawning on his face. Miss Harper released him, stepping back. "I don't fight children," she said softly, "but I do teach lessons, for those willing to learn." The next day, the cafeteria was quieter. No laughter, no spilled food, no pranks. Tyler walked in, his head low, a different expression replacing his arrogance. He saw Miss Harper sitting alone, sipping coffee. For a long moment he hesitated, then walked over. "Miss Harper?" She looked up, her gaze steady. "Yes, Tyler?" He swallowed hard. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For yesterday. She studied him for a moment, then nodded. You're not a bad kid, Tyler. You just think strength comes from control. But real strength comes from respect. For yourself and for others. He nodded, eyes on the floor. I get it now. She smiled faintly. Then that's your real first victory. Weeks passed and word about the Navy SEAL teacher spread across the school. But instead of fear, Miss Harper inspired something unexpected. Admiration. She didn't shout or punish, she guided. The students listened, and for the first time, discipline wasn't about power. It was about dignity. As for Tyler, he became her best helper in class. Every time someone joked about her military past, he'd shake his head and say, "She is tougher than anyone I've met, and the best teacher we've got." Bold truth line. Because respect isn't demanded through fear. It's earned through strength, humility, and heart. Poetic reflective line. And sometimes the calmest voices belong to those who've survived the loudest battles. Branded outro. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs a reminder that true strength comes from kindness, not cruelty. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Whispered Words, where every story proves that courage doesn't always roar,